Over the years, arguments have been made for and against the regulation of social media. The recent suspension of Twitter in Nigeria has again awakened the buzz on this issue. Some people say it is crucial to regulate the use of social media in the country, especially if some of the published contents pose a threat to the unity of the Nigerian nation, while others say this would be an infringement of the rights of people to freely express themselves. But the big question at the heart of all of this is, to what extent should the people's right go? A country's unity, relationship with the international community, freedom to access and disseminate information, which may include fake news and a number of other issues within the context of usage. Addressing these questions may perhaps provide useful answers that could put to rest arguments on regulating social media. Joining me in the studio is public affairs analyst Akin Fatunke. When our second guest is available, we'll definitely bring him on. But good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you very much, Veronica. Good morning, Nigerians. Nice for having me here.
Right. Now, let's get a sense of your perception to the government's decision to regulate the use of social media, asking that for any platform to operate in Nigeria, it has to successfully, let me use that word, it has to register with the CAC and all of it so that their operations can be monitored. Let's get his sense of what you feel, seeing that the times we are in, it's a crucial time, a digital age where everyone is seemingly relating with one another on all of these platforms.
Very well, Veronica. We must separate the actual, or what you call facts, from perception. What are the facts? Companies operating in Nigeria or foreign businesses, what you describe as foreign entities, are under the legislation of CAMA 2020. And the administrative aspect of that resides with the Federal Inland Revenue Department. Now, what does CAMA say? CAMA actually in section 54 laid it out clearly that any foreign entity, any foreign business that is making monies or making profit out of Nigeria should be liable to tax. But wait a minute. CAMA, though, in section 56, exempted some companies. But CITA, Company Income Tax Act, seems to be slightly at variance with what CAMA had prescribed, and gave the allusion, the perception that as a foreign entity, as a foreign company, you may not necessarily have to register in Nigeria. A bit of a confusion there. But over time, CITA has moved, to try and establish the fact that, the reason why this is so is just to make ease of doing business, ease of, filing tax papers from there, part of what the technical people call capital allowances computation, the expenses of those foreign entities. How do you begin to now capture that? It becomes a bit challenging. And so what they did was to now try and divide and say, you could have what you call passive income, passive investment, in which case, rather than go through all this gamut of the headaches in filing returns, going through normal human beings to do this, we could deduct at source something they call withholding tax.
Right.
And so you do not necessarily have to have a registered company in Nigeria. Once you do the withholding tax, all you just need to do is just to register your TIN, tax identification number. So for royalties, for rents, for dividends, it goes on. However, in around July 2014, things changed slightly. A directive was also given and say, hey, wait a minute, we may be losing, there may there may be leakages in the system, and said from January 1, 2015, all foreign companies operating and making a lot of money from Nigeria are supposed to file not just their annual returns, audited accounts, and what have you, but they are supposed to, in a manner of speaking, have a presence, physical presence in Nigeria.
Right.
That is the actuality. What is the perception? The perception, okay, maybe I should also add to the actual, what you just mentioned, the fact that, yes, there are a bit of political connotations. The territorial integrity of Nigeria might be at threat, security-wise, and what have you, according to federal government. Yes, according to federal government, we also saw that, because we saw tweets from Nnamdi Kanu. There's no doubt about that, calling Nigeria his own country a zoo, and then abusing everybody around. So what is his perception? Perception is it's been on for all this while.
Right.
Government did not deem it fit
to regulate it.
To regulate it
until now.
Until now, when a complaint was made about statements made by Mr. President, which, in my opinion, of looking at simple English, was not intended to label a section of the country and then go back to Holocaust, Biafra, and stuff like that. I mean, as a military man, he did say, the way these people are burning democratic institutions, killing and maiming their own, is not the best. However, because of the trust deficit, in terms of the same Mr. President that has sat to see that some other sections of the country who have been maiming, killing, people have not been declared terrorists, that trio, a kind of, can we really trust this man?
The trust deficit was what triggered all of those?
The trust deficit was there. And so, if Mr. President has said, a section of the country just gave me 5% of votes at one point in time, and then it's perceived that when it comes to being fair in terms of appointment, that section of the country, for whatever reason, it's always being bypassed. You've got to set people onto arms. And so, when you make even an innocent statement, it will be exaggerated, as it has been done. That's right. Number one. Okay. Number two, of course, in terms of perception, is the fact that beyond all the legalists, actual and perception, is the fact that, please permit me to use that word, some form of common sense. Right. Common sense from the perspective of the fact that the moral law of unintended consequences sometimes mess up with you. Oh yes, I'm now waking up to my rights. You are supposed to register, which is true. You're supposed to register, but what has happened all this time? It is not. Okay. It's not as if the regulators don't know they should do this. A lot of things have gone in. I've been in oil and gas gas space, and I know that a lot suddenly, the regulators will just wake up, and then that means stifle business.
All right. Let's get the perspective from our second guest. He is a public affairs analyst, Segun Shuimi. He joins me now via Zoom. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning. It's nice to have you.
Now, let's look at the federal government's decision. And the question is, does the regulation in itself address the issues tabled by the government as its reason for its decision to regulate the social media at this time?
Well, to be honest, you have to ask, where do the Nigerian citizens have an opportunity to ventilate and air their views? For anybody that is conscientious and fair, you may be concerned about, the garrulousness, the language, the fake news, and all of that. And for me, you're not going to try to replace reorientation responsibility by draconian fiats, because the lines to follow are either or. Is either you're following free economy, free societies, where you're copying the American style, where people can ventilate, have their opinion, leaders can even sometimes be slapped like you had in France and all of that, or you're following the Chinese model where the rights to be able to speak and cultural preservation is the key thing for you. Therefore, you are going to do major regulation of the ability of the people to, to operate there. Nigerians, our leaders in Nigeria, they seem not to know their people. Nigerians are chatting people. We are even a third garrulous. We like to speak and we like to throw banters. You cannot not give the people much in terms of development. And the only place where they play, and probably you get a bit, criticized. I've always maintained leaders must be ready for some level of ambiversion. Ambiversion is the kind of criticism that comes to you because you're holding high office. Your reaction to it cannot always be, oh, I'm going to wield the big stick. In this particular instance, what makes it mostly very offensive to the Nigerian people is that they chose a very, very personal deletion of a tweet that they put there by themselves to be the reason why all Nigerians should suffer. If they have a real issue with the kinds of things that iPod and all of those people put on the table, have they ever complained to the owners of that platform, to the microblogging site? Have they ever complained or brought their complaints and even their concerns to Nigerians so that more Nigerians can have a buy-in into what they're doing and therefore become the champions of this process? But speaking strictly, nations have a right to determine how any organization will operate within their nation. The challenge is how much trust do we have? A people who are quick to use the NBC licensing and regulatory framework to hold the real media. A people who are very quick to insist that people cannot even ventilate or agitate or gather easily. A people who are easy to stem out and start even when they want to do civil protests, who will now go to the level of even insisting that a microblogging platform that you can see that aside politics, Nigerians are doing business there. They are, keeping their sanity together there. They are doing social networking there. They are ventilating there. It's too much of a pain for the people. But the harm is done. I'm one of those ones who believe that you can criticize your government, but you must never shame your government. And therefore, because they've taken a position, I think now we must now encourage them to find a space-saving middle ground position where Nigerians can have a bit of what they want and government can have its regulation. For I am not part of those who agree that nations will not even sometimes demonstrate that they have the ability to control their own play, especially in the midst of, very competitive global economy and players there. As far as I'm concerned, the federal government is very wrong on this occasion, but that does not totally mean that we are not concerned too, that space is left to all sorts of the characters who can sometimes, before you know what is happening, use the instrument of fake news to destabilize the country, and before we know what is happening, we have the crisis on our hand that those people who are blogging now will not be the ones to come and help us solve it. Nigeria is not in the mood to have any international company come and start telling us they are doing welfare or they're helping us to handle the crisis that comes from war. Therefore, all Nigerians, the government and the citizens must be responsible now, and we must understand that totally we are going to have to stand by our nation. We're going to have to say this style is not good. But I tell you again, the people who are trying to regulate social media, that is the Buhari administration, they have not demonstrated that they are fair. You only need to listen to the words of the Attorney General. You need to listen to the words of how their spokespeople and even their ministers speak, and you will understand why Nigerians are.
And that is where my next question lies. Still staying with you, Segun Sowunmi. If you say they haven't demonstrated fairness and the aspect of trust and transparency is still a major concern, what then are the implications of this move that you foresee? Do you think that the people will cooperate with the government?
I think that the people are not going to cooperate with them, because the relationship between the government and the government is almost like a bargain. On one end of it, that makes you know whether you're doing the right thing, is a social contract. People must know what they're getting from their government. People must see that their government is serving them with empathy. People must understand that the majority of the people's opinion matter. People get irritated with government when government begins to see itself as if it's living outside the realities of the citizens that they are leading. You must never make yourself into a pariah or create a democratic mimicry of a dictatorship that now gives you the impression that just because you have that permission, it's a great abuse of office for you not to be sure that you are infringing on the human rights of the people. You are infringing with their freedom of association and even their commercial. You are causing them to lose money on both sides. Therefore, government cannot be draconian and snap, knee jerk in their reaction to things. I have been concerned with some of the things that have been going on social media, to say it very frankly. But I thought that there was a better way for them to have done it even way, way, way before now. They made everybody look stupid. The president was speaking to INEC and his people. And in fairness to the president, what he said within that meeting was not bad for that audience. Who sent them to go and put it on social media? Why did they take it there? Okay, I haven't taken it there. Will any organization not have a right to regulate its own issues? Are you going to go to public space and say, oh, because you didn't do that to Nnamdi Kanu and now you did mine? You are elevating Kanu to a status that he doesn't even understand. We're talking about a nation. We're talking about people that are very, very, very energetic. People who like to gist. People who like to take pictures. You are attacking where the young people play. It's like you're going to the town hall meeting of young people and you're basically dropping a bomb there because you don't want to hear their voice. It comes with the territory. They may irritate you. Nobody has slapped you here. Someone has just slapped the president of a free country in France, and nobody has shot him.
We still have a guest here in the studio. I need him to weigh in on everything that you have said. He mentioned the fact that, yes, the issue of fake news is a challenge, and if the government needed to address it, it could have addressed it even way before now, and perhaps in a better direction at addressing it. And some have said that Nigeria has a plethora of defamation, national security, cybercrime, and internet laws. Why is she not looking at pushing all of that, implementing them, to addressing all of these issues that the government has mentioned?
Pure and simple. Governance practices in Nigeria, whether you are looking at it from the tax, looking at providing employment, or the real politics of governing, has been very suboptimal. There is absolutely no doubt about that. And like I said, that has eroded trust. Regulation in Nigeria has been weak. Not just weak, has been bedeviled with a lot of untoward, characteristics that leaves you gasping for breath. Who now regulates the regulator? In the oil and gas industry, same thing. Showing my friend talked about it, the LCC. Okay, all right, all put together. Point now is, no matter how bad things might have been, if we have a madman, a mad cow in a China shop, you must have to find a way to address it with wisdom. Solomon addressed an issue that will have been terrible by being stupid. Now, Twitter has reacted, pulled down Nnamdi Kanu's tweets. Twitter, according to reports, has come back to government that let's negotiate. Yeah. I think this is more than enough for a listening government who care about perception to now then decide that, okay, yes, all said and done, this is what my people want. Okay, go ahead. Yes, we are going to be strict about regulation. Hopefully, the governance aspect of that regulation is going to be transparent. Whether it is Abacha law that is coming and we don't know where it is going, and NCC regulations, my plea is the similar plea I made to Mr. President. You are still the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It doesn't matter how people look at you. During the NSAS, I made a plea on television, and I said, Mr. President, please go out, just talk to your people. This is not the time for Mr. President or a designate to really come and talk to Nigerians. What, Malami is going about, I'm going to prosecute some pastors and all that. They are all distractions. Nigeria has a good point, and please let me just say this.
Quickly, because we need to
yes, the Americans have come for the second time to say that the Twitter ban has to be reversed immediately. I think that was high-handed in their jurisdiction and in other jurisdictions. Twitter would not have treated them, whether you like it or not, the way they are treating us. National cohesion and national pride should always supersede, but we must govern well.
All right, let's leave the conversation then. Now, Public Affairs Analyst Akin Fatunke and Public Affairs Analyst Segun Shomi. Gentlemen, thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you very much.